All right, very excited for the third hour of the Elias Macko Show because I get to welcome back a good old friend. We used to have good chats back when I was working in morning show TV. Tony Loffreda is with us. He's an independent senator and a former bigwig over at RBC. Tony, thanks for coming back on. How you doing?
Elias, the pleasure is always mine. Thank you for having me.
We have so much to get to. I want to start off with the criticism that Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland faced this week in the Senate Finance Committee over the GST holiday. Also looking at the $250 check that the government intends on sending out next year. Why didn't you tell me about those discussions? What happened in the Senate this week? And perhaps do you share those concerns here that we're talking about?
Well, thank you for the question. It was an interesting session with Minister Freeland, and we always enjoy having her with us. And I always say, no minister, no bill, right? So when there is a bill, the minister has to appear in front of the Senate. And of course, most Canadians will welcome this tax holiday. Who wouldn't want to keep more of their hard-earned money in their pockets? But senators feel that this measure is a little improvised and rushed. And, if we talk, the Liberals would always campaign on the left, but govern left of center or center. This time they've governed way left because of the NDP, and they want to put a measure in that's welcomed by most Canadians, and not just the vulnerable. They've done a lot for the vulnerable population, but they want do something for most Canadians.
Can I, Tony, because I know we have a good banter between the both of us. I want to push back just a bit here before you get to finish your answer. And it's because I don't feel most Canadians welcome this. We actually did a call-in segment one day, and I know you listen to the show every now and again, but we did a call-in segment one day, and we asked, who should get a GST holiday? Who should get a $250 check? And it was a resounding, I would say 90 to 10, this is a dumb idea. Nobody wants it. When I've gone shopping in small businesses, I've asked them about this. They're all livid about all of the work that's required. I'm not so convinced Canadians actually need or want this right now.
Well, the arguments against it, and I can, what we talked about in committee, it's a temporary relief without addressing the root causes. There's been no stakeholder consultation, no consultation with the provinces. It'll cost the provinces some money. Implementation challenges, for businesses, which you mentioned. Even if you want to stretch it, potential inflationary effects, exclusion of previously announced measures, the $250 per Canadian. I mean, it's not being done with this bill here, and selective application of equity concerns. It's not needed by all Canadians. I mean, there's many Canadians that don't need the break, and for the business community, my phone doesn't stop ringing and saying, "Hey." They're concerned, and I'll talk about why and maybe the benefits of it, to be fair, to see both sides, right?
Yeah.
And I'll talk about the benefits, but I do want to come to a lot of the calls I'm getting by the businesses. They're concerned because it's very complicated. They're concerned with Revenue Canada coming in after the fact and saying, hey, you didn't collect the taxes on A, B, C, or D. And, when Revenue Canada hits, they hit hard. So a lot of these businesses, and it's the small businesses, not the large businesses. The large businesses have the capacity and the technical talent that can do this, but not the small businesses. So but we had Revenue Canada in front of our committee, and I did ask the question, will you be lenient? And the answer was yes. Now, this is what, I just want to comfort the people in the business community that are listening. They will be lenient. Now, why was this put forward, besides the political aspect, which I already mentioned? But, it's immediate financial relief, enhanced affordability during the peak spending periods, stimulus to consumer spending. I mean, even BMO analysts did, I don't want to dump numbers on you, Elias. I'm strong at that. But, they've said the GDP will increase. Who knows how much it will increase by? Nobody knows for sure. Support for families and children. And if you really want to stretch it, promotion of literacy and education by making the books and printed materials tax-free, right?
So, yeah, but that now you're getting to the stretch of the stretch of the stretch, Tony.
Yes, it is. It's a stretch. But I'm trying to think why it was put forward, and maybe that would be also one of the reasons politically to say, hey, we support education, we support the kids, we support the families, let's move.
Okay,
but we had a lot of testimony in our committee that is very negative. I mean, for one, many different things could have been done. For one, why not a GST credit instead, right? And
that's tied to income as well, right? Because that's
exactly.
another knock here is you're giving money to people that make sometimes substantial amounts of money. We're with Tony Loffreda, a Canadian senator. Tony, I have to ask you about this because we just got the news from the Bank of Canada, another rate cut, 0.5 point. We started this year at 5% interest. We're now at 3.25%. I was looking at that. The economy grew in the third quarter by a measly 1%. It's below the anemic forecast that the Bank of Canada had to begin with. I wonder, you were a banker. You know the business and the economy inside and out. Are you worried about how the Canadian economy is doing? And perhaps was this GST holiday about just trying to get the engines running because it seems like we're stalled right now economically?
Yeah. Well, there's one major concern I have, and we can take the positive and the negative. I'll start with the negative. Canadian households owe approximately $1.85 for every dollar of disposable income. That's 185% of household debt to disposable income. And if we compare to Germany or the USA, for example, they are at 100%. Now, if I take the USA economy, which is the largest in the world still today, 70% of their GDP is based on consumer spending. The consumer drives 70% of that GDP, right? In Canada, it's 60%. Now, if the consumer doesn't have that disposable income, well, I'm concerned for the economy. And yes, we can say and argue, and this is the positive. We're borrowing $1.6 billion to give everybody a little tax break and a Christmas gift and what have you, which is needed by many Canadians. And I won't say it's not needed, but, and we'll say Canada has the lowest net debt to GDP amongst the G7 at 42.2%, approximately, which is the overall fiscal position. It is strong. And I did ask our PBO officer that was in on committee and Chrystia Freeland, do we have the fiscal capacity for this Christmas holiday GST break? And the answer was yes, we do, because he did an analysis. We have the fiscal capacity. But you cannot tell Canadians how they are feeling.
Mm-hmm.
If you look, you cannot. And that is the error that's being made by many governments, maybe the USA government. All governments that were in power lost their elections. They're all going back and saying, hey, we're not in that bad of a shape. And the U.S. still had the strongest economy in the world. Yet the Republicans came to power. Why? You cannot tell people how they should feel. The debt to disposable income is way too high. So interest rates have to come down. What I'm worried about is the Canadian dollar compared to the U.S. dollar. That keeps sliding. Over 80% of our GDP, we're a nation of trade. Over 80% of our GDP is import-export.
Mm-hmm.
Over 40%, close to 45% is exports, 3/4 to the USA. So we're talking about tariffs. We're talking about, you've all heard that discussion with Donald Trump. And,
well, so let me listen. I have to wrap up here, Tony. Honestly, I could talk to you all day. You know that, right? But let me ask you this. Because you were an independent senator, but you were named to the Senate by Justin Trudeau. But I have to ask you if you feel that this government, that the Liberal government, if they are driving the Canadian economy off a cliff right now, because the numbers don't look good and everything you outlined doesn't look good. What do you think?
Well, listen, I think our democratically elected House of Commons will decide. And we are, I've never seen the Senate. We have great senators, each and every one of them. I have confidence in the Senate. We have great discussions. Canadians should follow the Senate a lot more than they do. The Globe and Mail had a great report on our committee meeting with Minister Freeland, and this bill, it's going to be a challenge for it to get through. I'll be honest. We got government people calling, and people are worried because there's major discussions as to it could have been done better.
Tony, it may not get through. It's December 11th. We're supposed to not pay tax on December 14th.
Well, that's it. It may not get through. Well, I'm speaking to it today, and there'll be a vote coming up very soon. So we'll see what happens. But I think the last bill that came from the House of Commons that did not go through, we amend over 50% of them now accepted by the House of Commons. But the last bill was the Brian Mulroney when he tried to criminalize abortion. The Senate did not vote it in. So the Senate is there as a sober second thought, a check, a balance on the government.
I have a compromise. Get this amendment through. We get the GST holiday, but also an election 2 months later, right? When it ends, we also go to the polls. Try and get that through, Tony. See if you can finagle that. Tony,
it's always a pleasure. You call me more often.
Absolutely. That's Senator Tony Loffreda right there.